Welcome to episode 22.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
The holiday season is upon us, and there is no time like the present to book your holiday getaway with 3D Travel Company. Whether you want to set sail on the high seas or visit exotic and foreign locales, maybe your dream is to see a magical mouse, or maybe you long for a getaway that will universally appeal to all. For a limited time, my listeners receive a Disney gift card with qualifying Disney vacation purchases booked and traveled by the end of 2016. For more information on booking any of these trips, go to 3dtravelcompany.com and tell them Trenton sent you.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest plays a paramedic on Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med. She is also a clarity coach, a voiceover coach, and a voice actress. So stay tuned as we discover who this special guest is on today's adventure of Who Did That Voice. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today on the show we have Courtney Rioux joining us. Courtney, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, it is my pleasure to have you, Courtney. And, the very first thing we always like to do when we start out is just to get a background on who our special guest is, learn a little bit about them, and how did you get into the voiceover industry?
Yeah, well, I started acting as a kid. Actually, my brother started dancing before me, and he really he watched MTV and he really wanted to be a dancer. And so my mom was like, okay, I guess I'll find some dance schools. And I kind of stayed on the sidelines as a shy kid. So I stayed in the lobby for a year before I jumped into dance class. And from then on, it just really sparked everything. I became more confident. I started taking voice lessons, and I started to audition for the school plays. And in 6th grade, I made my first school play, Good News, and the rest is history. I did plays in the community theater, and I did plays in high school, and I decided I really want to be an actor. So I went to Illinois State University, and I got a degree in acting there, and, won the Gene Scharfenberg Award there as I was graduating, which means, you're the most likely to succeed outside in the real world. So that was really nice to leave with that. And then just 3 days after graduation, started working professionally as an actor. So I was doing a play called Fiddler on the Roof. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did that at Drury Lane in Oak Brook here in the Chicagoland area. And I did theater for about 5 years, going from show to show to show, and kind of got burnt out a little bit from the theater world and decided I'm going to go for more of the commercial end of the acting spectrum, and started taking classes, and actually I teach at the place where I started taking classes, the Green Room Studio in Chicago. So I started teaching kids on camera acting there too. I really enjoyed it. I did some commercials and things like that. And the guy who runs the place, Sean Bradley, was like, if you ever want to make money as an actor in Chicago, you need to get a voiceover demo. And I was like, great. So I went out and I got coaching at a place called Sound Advice, and I got a demo there, and I actually started working there too. It's like every place where I went to take classes, they were like, do you want to work here? Which is really nice to have jobs outside that are actually in the field but can pay your bills outside of acting. So I worked there, and I sent my demo into Stewart Talent about a year later after I got my demo, and they took me in and signed me. And I love the ladies at Stewart Talent. They're so great at getting great auditions for me, and I've been booking consistently ever since I signed with them there. But in Chicago, it's mostly commercial voiceover. I know that you talk to a lot of people who do a lot of animation and TV and film and things like that for voiceover. But really, in Chicago, the heart of it is commercial here. So that's most of what I've done.
Well, that is most fascinating. I really appreciate you sharing all of the different facets that you've kind of dove into with the acting world. And, you mentioned Fiddler on the Roof. I love that show. In fact, in my junior year of high school, I actually played Laser Wolf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What character did you play on the show?
So, well, in high school, I played Huddle, but then in professional theater, it was funny because I was actually cast as the ensemble, and then the girl who was playing Zeidel dropped out to go do a different show, and they called me. I was understudying her, and they called me and said, "Hey, do you want to play Zeidel instead of being in the ensemble?"
Let me think about that.
Yeah, let's think about that. Yeah. So coming right out of college to play that lead role in an equity theater company in the Chicagoland area was just really a really sweet gig to have. So that was really fun.
Absolutely. That is most spectacular. I mean, that show is just so alive with music and, it's just a great story. It's always been one of my favorites growing up.
I loved that production. I loved every single person in that show. It was just a beautiful, beautiful show. So I was really happy. That was my first professional experience.
Absolutely. Well, that is so fantastic. I'm so grateful you shared that with us. And you mentioned, Courtney, that, I do have a lot of people that do like animation and films and TV shows and stuff. And you're right, I do. But this show is called Who Did That Voice? Because there's so many different facets of voiceover. And that's what I want my listeners to hear are the stories that aren't just from people that do animations, but, all the different facets of voiceover. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yeah, of course. And, my dream is to do animation voiceover. So once I, make that goal and do that dream, then I'll come back on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get the scoop on it and get it out to the fans and the people all around the world. So that'd be fantastic. Well, Courtney, how did you end up finding an agent, or how do you find an agent to represent you in the acting and or voiceover world, or both?
Sure. Well, I think, first you have to have that experience or that training. And so I recommend if you haven't taken a class, you get into a class, whether that's a voiceover class or an on-camera class or an acting class. And really, agents, and when I speak, I'm going to speak for Chicago because that's the market that I know. So here in Chicago, agents really want you to be able to do on camera because that is where the money is, and also voiceover. So yes, it's great if you can do theater and you can act, and they love people who do theater. It's very attractive to them. However, you have to have that on-camera training on your resume. And if you want to do voiceover, you have to have that voiceover training on your resume. And then you want to have, especially for voiceover, you want to have a reel. So once you have that training and you get yourself a reel, then you want to make sure that you can back up what that demo reel shows, because anybody can make you sound really good in a voiceover demo. They can use editing skills and, the music and everything to make you sound amazing. But your agent is going to want to know that you can back that up. And so you have to have that coaching and that training. So I recommend doing that. And then what you do is you just look up agents. And with voiceover, what's great about that is you can have agents all over from anywhere. So while it's great to have one in your hometown, like Stewart Talent is in Chicago for me, I also have an agent, Houghton Talent, in the South. I'm working with Stewart Talent on the East Coast as well, in New York. And I know people have agents in LA to Colorado anywhere you can find an agent, Texas. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in your home state. But you want to look at agencies that do voiceover or do whatever you want to do and look up how they want you to submit. So some might say, send me a CD with your demo on it. Some might say, send me a headshot and resume via mail. Or some might say, send me an email with a link to your website. So you want to make sure that you know how that specific agency wants you to submit. And then you want to find out who the contact person is. You don't want to just say like, dear sir or madam. You want to find a specific person and say, dear Sheila, and a very short cover letter, right? Maybe 3 lines max. And it's like, I'm looking to expand my representation, just took voiceover classes at blah, blah, blah. Here's my demo. Thank you so much. Would love to meet with you. And that's it. And, I had postcards that I had made up that looked like my graphic on my website, and it had my name and it had my website with my demo on it. And I just wrote a little note on it, and it said, looking to expand my representation, just a short note, sent that in the mail. And 3 days later, I got a call from Stuart and went in for an audition and signed with them. So sometimes it's as easy as that. Sometimes you have to keep resubmitting. So if an agency says, gosh, you sound great, but we have your type already, then you'll want to wait like 3 to 6 months and submit again and just keep trying. Because a lot of times it's not about necessarily your talent of why you didn't get signed with them. It could just be that they have someone who sounds like you. And they will tell you if you're not ready. If they don't think you're ready, they'll say, go get more training.
Well, that's good that at least they're going to give you a heads up so you kind of have an idea of where to go next from where you were. And aside from all the information you shared with us, the one thing I'm not sure of is in the market for Chicago, are you guys union or non-union there?
We have both. Okay. So you can, if you're a union actor in Chicago, you cannot do any other non-union work, but you can be a non-union actor doing union work for a few times until then you have to join the union.
Okay.
So once you get like one union job, you are what's called Taft-Hartleyed. And Taft-Hartley just means you have 30 days to do as much non-union or union work as possible in those 30 days without having to join the union. And then once that's up, the next union job you do, you are a must join. So you have to join the union at that point. There is another thing called an OK 30, where you have another 30 days to do as much union or non-union work before you join the union. But then it's like you definitely have to join. But I love the union. I love being a SAG-AFTRA member. I'm super proud of it. I love that they have my back, and they've done so much for me as an actor, have gotten, checks for me that I couldn't get on my own. They make sure that I get paid within 15 to 30 days. They just make sure that I'm, taken care of on set. Nothing is dangerous. So I love the union. And when you, for your audience, if you're pre-union right now, when you're ready, I highly recommend it. But if you are just starting out, you don't necessarily want to join the union because you want to get that experience on your belt.
Absolutely. And for those who don't know, Courtney, there is a substantial entry fee once you are at the point of being submitted into SAG-AFTRA, correct?
There is. It's about $3,000. Give or take a few. I can't remember the exact number. So I would say if you want to be a professional actor, start saving your pennies now. Make a separate savings account that's like strictly for your SAG-AFTRA dues and your SAG-AFTRA entry fee, because you'll want to have that for when you are ready to go professional. You'll want to have that saved up. Now they do have, payment plans and credit cards that you can use, but if you can already have that saved, you're going to feel so much better about joining the union. And you don't ever have to pay that again. You have dues that you pay twice a year, but it's not nearly that much unless you're making like Robert De Niro money. Then it might be that much. I don't know.
Just kind of depends, huh?
Yeah, it depends on how much you make for how much your dues are. So, yeah.
Well, Courtney, I know you've done some different things for radio, such as commercials for like Allstate and Bank of America and KFC. I know you've also done some children's toy products like a Frozen ebook. What other kinds of VO projects have you been a part of or done for different companies?
So I have done, recently I just did McDonald's McPick 2 TV spot that was really fun. And I think that was just in the Chicago and Indiana area. So, but it's also online. And I did one of my favorite things I did was one of those children's toys. They're called the Flipsies.
Okay.
And the Flipsies are these little toys that talk to each other and like talk to their owner. And so the one of them that's out right now, her name's Clementine. I did her voice, and there was a couple other that I did that haven't come out yet. I don't know if they are coming out or if they like kind of stopped production on those toys, but they're really cute and fun. So if you have any, little kids out there that want to play with the Flipsies toys, make sure you check out Clementine. She's a baker, and I can't remember exactly what voice I used, but it was probably like, "Hi, I'm Clementine, and I'm a baker," like something like that, like
Yeah,
a little girl voice, right? So that was really fun, and I just did for on camera. In March, I filmed some spots for Hot Shot Bed Bugs, and I did 3 spots. I went to Austin to film them. It was really fun. And they are on, if you go to like the Hot Shot Facebook page or the YouTube page, you can see those there. And they're just really funny, fun commercials. I got to improvise a lot in my audition and on set. And I would work with the writer and like change things. And I love that. I love being able to improvise in my gigs that I do, whether it's on camera or voiceover. And I have to say that is a secret that I use. I mean, you don't want to improvise on TV and film. You don't want to improvise in theater. And you don't necessarily want to improvise that much when it comes to like announcer voiceover stuff. But when you get to play that character stuff like I do, you get to improvise a lot. And sometimes that is the thing that gets you to book the job. I had someone tell me once in a session, like there was a part in the script that said the girls walk away whispering. And I decided to, in my audition, go like, and he was like, "Nobody else did that. You're the only one who did that. So that's why you booked the job." And it's just those little tiny things where you can stand out that make a big difference. Like you said, there's so many people in this industry. There's so many people auditioning. They have so many auditions to get through. How do you stand out? And that's one of the ways I do that is through improv.
Well, that's fantastic because, whatever it was that, that writer put in there, he wanted it there for a reason. And so
Right.
when you fulfilled that, he was like, that's it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That's fantastic, because, it's the little things sometimes. It really is.
It is.
So, you've been talking quite a bit about Chicago. I don't know if you know this, but there's actually some shows there called Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, wait, you're on that show. All 3 of those shows, actually.
Yes, I am. I was very, very fortunate to book a role that allows me to go on all of the shows. So a year ago, last summer, I had my first TV audition was for Chicago Fire, and I booked it. And I was so excited. It was for like Paramedic number 1 or EMT number 1. And then, I don't know, a month or 2 later, I get a call saying, "Hey, they want to use the paramedic role on Chicago PD. Are you available?" Yes, I am. And then, a couple months later, "Oh, they want to use you on Chicago Med now." Great. Because I don't know if you know this, but when you book a role on one of those Chicago shows, Chicago Med, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, now there's Chicago Justice, you can't do another role for like a year or 2 after you do one. So if you play a murderer on Chicago Fire, you can't go play the guy who works at the coffee shop on Chicago PD in the next episode because it's all the same universe.
Yeah.
Dick Wolf wants it to be like, all the crossovers and everything. Thank God for Dick Wolf coming to Chicago because we've never had this much TV here in Chicago, and it's been amazing.
Yeah. But
yeah, so they gave when I started working on Chicago Med, they gave me a name. So now I'm Paramedic Courtney, and I love it. I love the cast. I love the crew. Everyone is so nice. When I go back on set, they're like, "Hey, welcome back, Courtney. So nice to see you." And it's just really a great time, and everybody is just so cool. And I have to say, it's a bit of social currency to be on a show like that. When you meet people for the first time and someone's like, "Oh, did you see she's on Chicago Med?" and people just think it's really cool. So it's gotten me a few things, and I'm only this like very small part. So I don't even know what happens to people like Sophia Bush when they go out in the world.
Well, I think it's fantastic that you're on the show too. I mean, it was just like amazing because I'm like, when you talk about voiceover, you sometimes just think voiceover when, that's what you're into, but it's acting, and acting is so many different facets as well as voiceover itself. And I just find it so fascinating that you've been able to be on these shows. In Chicago Fire, you've done 1 episode, you've done 2 for Chicago PD, and you've done a total of 7 now for
more.
Chicago Med.
So,
More.
yeah,
Okay.
more. So I did 7 last season, but
Okay.
this season I've filmed 3 already, and 2 have aired, and I'm about to film, I think, if I book it, I'm on Checkavail for another episode coming up, episode 10. So for this season, I did episode 1, episode 2, episode 6, and episode 9, and probably episode 10.
Fantastic.
So that'll be 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you think the name for your character came from you, or did they just?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So they actually there were 2 other paramedics on the show that they like to use as well. Their real names are Desmond and Caesar. And so they became Paramedic Desmond and Paramedic Caesar. So we get our real names.
Well, it's fantastic because when people call out for your character name or your real name, either way, it's all good.
Hey, and that happened with Marlene, the woman who plays Maggie. She was like, "Hey, I'm going to call you by your name when you come in this time." Because it usually just says like incoming or what do you got? Something like that. And she's like, "I'm going to call you by your name." She's so nice. I love her to death. She's amazing. So she goes, "I'm going to call you Courtney." And then she goes, "Wait, is that your character name, or is that your," like, she was confused by it. She's like, "I thought that was your real name." And I was like, "No, yeah, it's both. You got it."
That's fantastic. And you briefly mentioned it, and there may be people out there who didn't catch it or don't know this, but Chicago Justice is coming next year, I believe.
Yeah, I think in January it airs. They've already started filming. I've known some people who've gotten cast, so it's really exciting. And I don't know if Chicago Justice has a need for a paramedic, but if they do, fingers crossed, Paramedic Courtney makes an appearance.
Hey, when they have that court case and there was that situation going on and they need that eyewitness and you're the paramedic.
There you go. Can you write the show, Trenton?
Hey, I would love to write an episode for Chicago. It is not my most proficient talent, but I do love to write. As long as I have an editor, I'm okay.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's fantastic, Courtney. I'm really glad we got to dive into that as well, because my wife is an avid Chicago Fire watcher and Chicago Med. And she watches Chicago PD too, but she definitely watches Fire and Med. And yeah, they're both fantastic. I mean, they're all a fantastic series, and I'm so glad that the series is kind of expanding. The franchise is expanding and making that universe even bigger. Maybe they can add a 5th show next year in 2018, and then they can, have a Monday through Friday,
Yeah, totally. I made the joke once that, they could have Chicago paramedics next, but then someone who worked on the show, he was a sound guy, he was like, "Yeah, we did that. It was called Sirens, and it didn't work out so well." So did you ever watch Sirens? I loved that show.
I don't think I did, and if I did, I just don't know it by its name.
Oh, it was on, what network was it on? I can't remember what network it was on, but my friend Kelly played a paramedic on the show, and it was about paramedics in Chicago. But it was a comedy, so it wasn't like, Chicago Med where it's a drama. It was a half-hour, sitcom, and it was just so funny. If you can watch, there might have been 1 or 2 seasons. If you can find them and watch them, it was just a great show.
Absolutely. I'll definitely try to look into that. Courtney, another thing that I wanted to dive into with you is I know that you are a life coach, and I was wondering, what does it take to become a life coach?
Well, I had always thought to myself, wow, what a cool profession to be a life coach and to help people. But I was kind of like, how would I ever do that as a living? Like, I already have a living as an actor where it's kind of uncertain and you don't know how you're going to get your next paycheck and that. So I kind of just brushed it off and didn't think about it much. And then I had the opportunity to work with a life coach. Her name was Jamie Kalman, and she was the best thing that ever happened to me. I kind of had some confidence issues for a couple years, I think, in my career, where I just got really down on myself, and I kept listening to that negative voice in my head that was telling me I wasn't good enough and I, should quit. And so I started working with Jamie, and at one point in one of our sessions, I was telling her, I was reading this book. I love these personal development books. I read them every day of my life. And, and I help my friends with them. And she's like, do you want to be a life coach? And I was like, well, yeah, kind of. I've thought about it, but I don't know how that would happen. And she was like, okay, well, let's work on, your confidence as an actor. And then after that, we can talk about getting you like a certification or something like that. She's like, if you just jump into another career, you're going to bring those same insecurities into that career that you have right now in acting, which totally made sense and is so true. And so we worked on a lot of stuff in my life. I feel like my life has improved so much since working with Jamie, and my confidence has improved so much. And I just feel like myself again after working with her, like I used to, in college and in high school when I had all this confidence. And yeah. And so she told me to research certifications. So I did some research and I found one that I loved. It was the Robbins Medanis Training Center. Do you know Tony Robbins at all?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a big guy. They call him the gentle giant. He's a huge guy, deep, deep voice. And he pretty much started the life coaching industry about 30 years ago.
Okay.
And he paired up with a licensed family therapist. Her name is Chloe Medanis. And together they came up with this program online that I did. And I loved it. It took me about a year to complete it. I got my certification. I had to practice with people during that year. And I was practicing with people and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like I'm seeing changes in people. I mean, I didn't even have a certification yet. And I was helping people affect change in their life and, move forward in their life and get over fears and get over insecurities. And it was just really cool. So got that certification. And then I started to work with a woman named Dallas Travers, who, if you're an actor and you're listening, Dallas Travers is known as the actor's advocate. And she is the one who actually introduced me to Jamie Kalman, my coach. So she helps actors with marketing, and she helps actors with their mindset. But then she also started a company helping coaches. And what she did was she kind of combined the two. And so she had a program for actors who wanted to start a side business. And it could be like you're a coach or you are, a person who makes demos for people, whatever that business is, it didn't matter. But it was called Your Other Dream Job. And she helped teach me how to create an online business and have an online presence for my coaching business, and helped me do marketing for myself as an actor as well. So she was really instrumental in helping me grow both businesses. I really highly recommend her, whether you're looking to be a coach or you're looking to be an actor. Either way, she's got lots of good stuff for you. And she's at dallastravers.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know there will be a lot of people that will probably take you up on that advice and head on over to her website.
She's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now, Courtney, how can people reach out to you if they are wanting to inquire with you about your services as a life coach?
If you are interested in working with me at all as a coach, either in life coaching, if you're feeling stuck or unhappy and you want to feel more empowered and more joyful in your life and your career, I'm happy to work with people in that way. And my website is called The Whole Artist, and it's thewholeartist.com. And I have something called a clarity session. And the clarity session is a 45-minute to an hour-long session where we go over, what does your ideal life look like? Why is that important to you? Why do you feel like you're not getting that in your life? Why you're not doing, being, or having that? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to do what it takes to get there? So That's the whole session, and people really gain a lot of clarity, and we create a plan for next steps on how to take that next step forward into your dream life or your dream career, whatever that is for you that you're struggling with. And then also I do voiceover coaching and acting coaching via Skype or in person if you're in Chicago. And I teach at the Green Room Studio in Chicago. So there's a lot of ways to work with me if you are at all interested in that. And I love doing that part of my job too. I love being an actor, but I also love helping people and creating change in their life, whether that's through acting or through life coaching.
Absolutely, Courtney. I appreciate you sharing that information. I was going to definitely ask you for that too. The clarity session is what you called the initial session, correct?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
Now, is that a free consultation of sorts, or?
Well, I was going to say for your listeners, I would open it up to usually $75 for that first clarity session, but I'd like to let people apply for a free one of those.
Okay.
And so all you have to do to apply for that free one is to email me and let me know in just a short and sweet email, what is it that you want? Why are you not getting it? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how willing are you to accept help for that? And then number 4, why did you choose that number? And if you send that to me, I will put you in a drawing for a free session with me.
Fantastic. And that's for my listeners.
Yes, just for
Awesome.
your listeners.
So don't forget to mention. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Go ahead. You say it.
Yes, don't forget to mention the Who Did That Voice podcast, and that's how you found me. And we'll get you in a free session, and I could do those again over the phone or Skype or FaceTime or in person if you're in Chicago.
Fantastic. Yeah, different ways to connect with you if you're going to do those sessions. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I know you've mentioned your website. Do you also have a personal website and social media where people can reach out to you, Courtney?
Definitely. I would love that. So my acting website, if you want to check it out, is Courtney Rioux, RIOUX.com. That will bring you to my voiceover page. But there's also just CourtneyRiouxActing.com will go to the homepage. But I know that most listeners are probably looking for the voiceover, so that's just CourtneyRiouux.com. And then I'm on Instagram as Courtney Rioux, again, RIOUX. And I always say it's like I owe you money. That's how you can remember it. And I'm on Twitter as Courtney Rioux again, and Facebook, you can find me at The Whole Artist, or I have a Courtney Rioux page as well. So you can definitely find me there and reach out to me in any of those places. You can also email me if you want to email me about the clarity session at Courtney@CourtneyRiouux.com is fine as well.
Absolutely, Courtney. Thank you so much for sharing that, so people can either reach out to you for, getting that consultation, or, maybe they're interested in your acting career or asking you advice, or maybe they're looking to hire you.
Yeah, any of those is totally fine with me. I'm happy to chat with people who are interested in any of that.
Absolutely. Well, Courtney, I have one final question before we let you go today.
Sure.
The question is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind, Courtney?
Ooh, that's a good one. The legacy I want to leave behind is one that I made people happy and I made people laugh, and I inspired people in some way, whether that's through my acting or coaching or through my friendship or being their family member, whatever that is. I hope that I could have a positive impact on someone's life.
Most excellent. That is definitely a good word, Courtney. I really appreciate you sharing that with us today. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure. Would you please just give us a closeout today?
This is Courtney Rioux, actor and clarity coach on Who Did That Voice.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Courtney Rioux. And if you did, please stop on by my Contact Me page at www.whodidthatvoice.co. I'd love to hear from you. Hey everyone, a big shout out this week to Toby Mask and Daryl Herman over there at Ultimate Collectibles and Apparel in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you guys again for donating to the show for another great giveaway this week. Hey everyone, this week we have a second giveaway for a local Oklahoma City resident. It's to a store called The Grotto in the Quail Springs Mall, Suite 122. They do salt therapy, and the gift card is for one of their special salt inhalation therapy sessions. It helps open up your lungs and your airways, so a very big special thank you to The Grotto, who is the first established halotherapy location in Oklahoma. Thank you guys so much. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us next week for our next special guest, Dave Courvoisier. He is a news anchor, an author, and a voiceover actor. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, are you ready to win some awesome prizes? All you have to do is like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter for your chance to be instantly and automatically entered for your chance to win.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.